What's up, guys? Welcome to a new video. So today is a big one. I'm giving you the no BS comprehensive guide to getting through every astrological transit. So we're talking Pluto, we're talking Neptune, we're talking Uranus, we're talking Saturn, Chiron, whatever we get into, right? And this is every planet that drags you to this epic transformation, but takes you through the chaos, all the hard lessons, right? So I'm gonna break down exactly what these transits do, and I'm gonna give you remedies, ideas, right? Based on the archetype of the transits. They're all different. Yes, there's a lot of different types of transits for example, Saturn can be squaring your Mars or opposite your moon, but I'm gonna tell you how to handle these. So let's dive in. And yeah, like it's very, very important to understand the astrology. Even we all go through tough times, we all go through tough transits. This is gonna help you not lose your mind and to be able to stay grounded within those. And yeah, so if you've ever felt stuck, confused, or just like you're going through a transit and it's like never gonna end, like me with these Neptune transits, this video is for you. So stay tuned, let's roll the intro, let's get into this stuff. All right, guys, welcome. So let's start by talking about Pluto. So Pluto is a massive planet, or it's very small, but it has a massive effect. So the biggest thing with Pluto transits of all sorts is to stop resisting. So Pluto is here to strip away what you no longer need, right? It's this battle of soul versus ego. What does the ego cling on to? What does the soul need? Need versus want. So it's not here to ruin your life. It is really about kind of boiling out what you don't need anymore. And it can be very intense. It can take you into your own darkness. So like the biggest thing for Pluto transits of all sorts is surrender, right? And being able to face your shadow, being able to not run away from it. It's very, very easy in common for people to face that part of themselves that is, not the best, and to kind of push away. But for Pluto, that's just the worst thing you can do, because then it just comes back 1,000 times stronger. So for example, like this can come in many different forms. Like obviously if Pluto is like squaring or opposing your moon on an emotional level, in terms of what makes you safe and what you need to let go of in order to transform, to get to the next level in terms of your emotional contentment, for example, that would be one thing. Pluto transiting your 7th house might bring up, some conflict potentially, but just a lot of transformation, which usually it does have a parallel of the work that you've done around relationships and one-on-one relationships. So I would say learning the act of psychological alchemy is very important. Being able to transmute, energies that were potentially more toxic before into stronger ones. So besides that, I think Pluto also deals a lot with power. And let's say like you have like something with Pluto Venus, or even Pluto Sun, anything that is more relational. Sometimes you have to like really look at your tendencies. Now, your tendencies, like in terms of controlling, abandonment issues, stuff like that, in relationships, like how, what patterns do you have that are no longer serving you, that are maybe even toxic. So it's not about like having shame around yourself or thinking that you're a bad person. You are here to solve these things at this time. Now also, another one is like Pluto transiting water houses. Those are always very tough times, 4, 8, 12. Just know that those periods can be very, very intense and can really break down a lot of hidden fears, a lot that's been in the unconscious that's maybe, more difficult to have access to, but in no way is anything a death wish. So I think when you think about Pluto Mars too, that to me, anyone going through a Pluto Mars transit, they have to work out. You have to move. There's just so much volcanic energy that can be very frustrating, and so it's really important to do that. So it kind of ask you like, what is the ugliest truth about me that I'm avoiding, right? And then also Pluto is about secrets. It's about power. So, being able to, like, another big theme with Pluto transits is like some people, you have two options, right? Either you find your power within, which is like the power that you find within yourself when you overcome something very difficult, or you try to take that power, you try to impose that power onto someone else through manipulation or power struggles in relationships or controlling, right? So we see many people kind of taking different routes in this realm. So that's one thing. And yeah, I'll say it again. Kind of this surrender is so much. It's so much easier said than done, and it can happen in so many different ways. But when it comes to Pluto, when you're able to surrender, that is the best. So guys, as usual, I have to write down things. So next, we're gonna get into Neptune. So Neptune, obviously, Neptune is the this is like my life. It's been my life for so long, right? So I can say a lot about this one. I've gone through pretty much every Neptune transit in the past few years. Not everyone, but a lot of them. And basically, Neptune is a mind. Basically, what it does is that it takes you out of your. So it can really drain your energy, right? If you're used to being someone who has a lot of vitality, who has a certain way of life, a certain consistency, Neptune transits will, a lot of times, kind of obviously depending on your natal chart, take you out of that usual flow. And it can also really affect you on the emotional, spiritual level because you're doing so much work in the ethereal higher realms that it can really take you away from, it can make you very, very easily drained, and especially around other people. So you can have this tendency to need to spend time alone, to need to get away from everything, and it can really be types of transits that push people towards this more spiritual inquiry, this search for clarity, this need to find their true spiritual essence, right? So one of the big analogies, or is that the right word? I guess like metaphors of what Neptune represents is fog. Fog, in foggy times when you're driving in the fog, you can't see ahead of you. You can only see 5 steps ahead. So one of the best advices for people going through Neptune transits is one day at a time. Just like when you're driving through a massive storm, you're not accelerating, right? And that's also a good metaphor about your energy levels. Your car is not going to be going at its maximum speed, and you're not going to be driving it and, oh yeah, I can see all these curves, I can see the path ahead of me. No, you can't. You can go one step at a time, but it really tests your faith for God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. And also a lot of dream journaling is one of the most impactful things for Neptune transits because you'll be spoken to a lot in your dreams. Now, one of the more difficult, so logic can be difficult during this period, but like there is that need to find the blend between intuition and logic, but also not like what's the difference between imagination and intuition, because sometimes that can get people in trouble. Over idealism, for example, trusting the wrong people during Neptune transits, kind of shady liar type people can come around. But I would say, yeah, like in terms of like meditating, that's like the best time for having like a more, like Neptune transits can be really frustrating in this I just wrote about this in my story on Instagram. In this very go world that we live in, Neptune transits can be very, very frustrating because like we just want to, we're told that we have to always be doing, always be creating, etc. And Neptune transits like make our energy, our physical energy, our vitality a lot lower. So it's like, how do you adapt to that? Like, how do you allow yourself, it's not about being less, like you still do your best, right? You don't use astrology as an excuse to be lazy and self-indulgent, right? Because that's another thing about Neptune is the potential for escapism, whether it's through drugs, alcohol, or just avoidant behavior in general. But essentially, like, yeah, like leaning into your more artistic side, leaning into your more, like still finding the balance, still keeping yourself, but it does, in my mind, force you to prioritize, because it's like now you have less energetic bandwidth going into each day. And some days it's very unpredictable. So it's like certain people who are like energy vampires per se, for lack of a better term, you might have to like learn to create boundaries with them. But your boundaries during a Neptune transit, because it's Neptune energy, your energetic boundaries will be way less. So you will feel a need for more alone time, but then you might feel like you're like less able to communicate that, you know? Sounds fun, right? So in terms of escapism, because like of that fog, that confusion, the disillusionment, a lot of people will self-medicate, even you know, spiritual bypassing, like not just substances, even through relationships, and yeah, kind of numb out to escape the deep emotional feelings that Neptune can bring, and the confusion, the fog. Because ultimately, like what happens to people who have these natal aspects a lot of times, or people who have a lot of Pisces or 12th house, is that and being of service is a huge thing. Like being of service with Neptune is like the best thing. But a lot of people will have a lack of self-esteem or a lack of direction. So by tuning into your more spiritual, artistic side, doing things, you know, that are better for you, or for helping other people, you start to see yourself through other people. So that's another big thing. So yeah, for example, let's say you're going through Neptune square moon, like I went through a few years ago. Like it's just like finding new ways to get in touch with your emotions, whether it's through like painting or journaling, even, you know, speaking into a camera, because cameras and mirrors rule Neptune, right? So these are examples. Neptune, Mars, you know, like you can expect like your energy to be less, right? So it's like kind of like readjusting your understanding. Like let's say like you're like in a very competitive, let me get some more mate. Let's say you're in a very competitive like workspace, right? And it's not, like I said, no self-limiting beliefs. Don't think that you can't achieve something, but have self-compassion. Understand that, like, for example, yesterday, like 2 days ago, I had an amazing day. And yesterday, even though my day was amazing, I woke up horrible. And this is just a theme, you know, it's nothing I can control. It's just how it's been, like the extreme ups and downs. But you get good at just dealing with it and taking it one day at a time. Besides that, I would say diving into things like salt baths, right? Reducing alcohol. That's something I've done throughout the years. Like I pretty much don't drink any alcohol. Not that I had a problem, but like you see during Neptune transits that you can be a lot more sensitive to these things. So some people fall deeper into addictions, but some people become super, super clean. And sometimes it's a process, right? And it's not about perfection. You know, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but yeah. And I would say meditating on the fact that you don't know, and just like being open to the divine spirit guiding you, and you'll get glimpses. You know, you'll have days like I had yesterday, for example, where it's like you're able to really like when you meditate, it's just magical. I just meditated for 6 hours. I honestly, this is kind of crazy. I hadn't done this in a long time, but I wanted to show that I didn't need to sleep last night, and I meditated for was it 6 hours? Yeah, and I want to make sure like I'm not gonna fall asleep lying down, and I did it. You know, so it's just a very interesting energy. It's just something that I hadn't done for a while. I wanted to do, but yeah, kind of going, you know, with your own flow. Okay, next is Uranus. So Uranus is obviously about liberation, about individuality, right? Sudden changes, breakthroughs, unexpected opportunities, and just occurrences in your life, rebelliousness, just shocks in general, you know, shocks that shake up the usual patterns in our life. So with Uranus transits, it's really about expecting the unexpected, you know, kind of allowing, because it's like these lightning bolts, like out of nowhere, boom, things that come at you. And then it's really just about kind of dealing with it as you go. But really, a lot of people make the mistake with Uranus transits thinking that like once that thing it's not always an event, but like, you know, it's a very youthful energy, right? So people like who've been living in a more like kind of, I can't think of a better word than, I was gonna say boring. That's very judgmental, but like, let's just say like a very rigid way, right? A Uranus transit might come and they might have like a new opportunity in their life that just like unlocks so much. So, a lot of people, it's like a wake-up call. It's like an alarm. Ding, 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 ding. You need to be living more in line with who you truly are. So people sometimes like will resist that. So the main thing is like, asking like, what is this change forcing me to see or pushing me to see? I'll give you like, so yeah, like for example, Uranus, if it transits your 10th house, your midheaven, that could be like, kind of like how your career, your dharma, your external persona, or how you're seen by others going through a radical change, right? But a lot of times it's out of our control. So I would say having a positive attitude, saying yes to things that show up, to new things, even if they scare you. Uranus is very much about experimentation, so resisting change. Like you just have to be ready to just like things come up and just be like, okay, yeah, it's like very, very, even though it's not mutable, like kind of being down for that, right? So yeah, I would say just like allow yourself to kind of look at all your attachments and understand. A lot of people who have Taurus placements have had to go through this in recent years and still going through it now. If they're late to be Taurus, just like looking at your attachments, which is very Taurian, and yeah, releasing them, releasing attachments, because Uranus can be very much about detachment, so the more fear there is for change, the harder the Uranus will hit. So one thing you could do is you could really like kind of take a self-inventory of, okay, what am I hanging on too much? Who, what, where, whatever, like whether it's people, ways of existing, whatever, that maybe you're hanging on to too much, or that's not giving you enough room, because ultimately, like there's this idea of spiritual hoarding, right? Where your life is so filled up, right, that there's not room for anything new to come in or anyone new to come in. So I'm not saying, yeah, so, and that kind of plays back to Pluto. I know this is not what we're talking about, but with kind of getting rid of what no longer serves you, what's no longer there for your current transformation, your current state of being, your reborn state. But Uranus is more like letting go, letting go in a different way, allowing the new to come in. So yeah, so it could be like big lifestyle changes. But yeah, having that inventory and really digging deep into what no longer makes me happy, like what is keeping me kind of held back, could be very valuable. So yeah, and I would say also another part of Uranus is this more eccentric energy, right? And going back to that whole idea of the rigid. Like when people go through their Uranus opposition, like that can be a time where they look at their life and they start to ask. That's like the whole midlife crisis. One of the midlife crisis trends is probably, in my mind, the biggest one, or on some level the biggest one, because it's like, you start to look at yourself at around, what is it, like 42 or something like that, and I don't think it's 42, but it's around there, and you start to, is it 42? Yeah, you start to think like, am I living, like, is the life I've lived up to this point in line with who I am on an individual level? Like, is what I'm doing really, it's like the whole metaphor of like, you see in American films of the classic dad who just like who just buys a sports car and just kind of like loses it or something, right? So really embracing that energy, but not going too far with it too. And understanding, really trying to think of how has societal conditioning and programming got to me, and what can I do to get away from it? So sometimes people go through and like have massive downloads, Uranus realizations. Remember, it's like the higher octave of Mercury, so it's like the antennas, and they go through massive changes in their lives. Also, your nervous system, rewiring your nervous system, like Uranus can be very intense, like it can really speed everything up, so that there can be this anxiety that comes with it or this burnout. So, doing things like breath work, meditation, anything that moves the body is really, really good. Cold exposure, etc. But yeah, so it really does make you wonder, what beliefs do I have were handed to me by society or by how I'm supposed to be versus how I want to be. So yeah. So I'll leave it there. I think the next one we'll talk about Saturn, Chiron, and Jupiter, and then maybe there's just so many I can talk about, whether it's progressed planets. Where do I want to talk? Yeah, we'll leave it there. So let me know in the comments what you think. So yeah, I'll do a part 2 right now. So yeah, there's 2 that come out. How have you handled any of these transits? What has been the greatest pieces of wisdom for you, or that you've read about or learned about? And what has some of the most tough transits of Pluto, Uranus, Neptune been? So thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Let me know in the comments, and please subscribe. I'm trying to get to, I don't even know what I'm trying to get to, but appreciate you guys a lot. Ciao. Bye-bye.